I think the first book that impacted me is by Daniel Goleman, and it has to do with Primal Leadership. Now, he has written lots of books. He's a great psychologist. And so in his book, he talks about emotional intelligence. And so that's his forte, dealing with emotional intelligence. But in this book particular, Primal Leadership, he talks about how as leaders, our emotion impacts the environment, our emotions impact our organization. So it's all about the mastery of emotional intelligence, because we lead with emotions. So if we come to the office and we have not mastered our emotional intelligence and to utilize the right form of emotions, our organization can be extremely driven to the point of toxicity, or it can be driven with lots of happiness, joy, and liberation. So his book, Primal Leadership, and the subsequent books that he has published, basically all oriented on emotional intelligence. And I think it's a good read and a good book in terms of its concept to be applied into our lives personally, before we even talk about how we practice our leadership in the office. But it deals firstly with this mastery, dealing with emotions that are toxic and how we need to try to negate it, and then emphasizing a lot on how we would build on this area of healthy emotions, that will lead to emotional intelligence.
Yeah, you're right. I've heard a lot about those workplace emotions
Yes.
a lot, and when we think about that, what are some of those things that maybe for a minister listening to this, what are some of those emotions that maybe they need to be aware of, and then how do they manage and work on that kind of emotional intelligence, like EQ, I guess as it's called?
Yes, I mean the reality is that God created us with emotions, both positive and negative, and if we are conscious of that which can impact others, you see, we want to use emotions to build those around us. We don't want to get into a situation where the outburst of our negative emotions begins to impact a staff member, so much so that they now would have something against us. And so one of the things that I do personally, and the application of this book after I read it, was that I told myself, as soon as I go to the office, whether I'm driving or I'm taking a bus, taking the tram, taking the subway, whatever it is, the moment I hit the office, I have to tell myself, today is a great day. Today is a day where I can bless my staff. Today is a day that I want to build somebody up. So you set yourself up. You allow the Holy Spirit to set yourself into that paradigm, so that when you step into the office, you are smiling, you're going up and greeting different folks. Yeah. So I think that's a pretty good starting point. Yeah. So when I was pastoring Trinity, I very often would tell the staff, when you come to the office, learn to smile. But if you are having trouble with smiling, and you are overburdened with a situation, and you're sitting at your work desk and you are just frustrated, I say to them, go home. Go home. Nothing against them, but go home, deal with it, so that by the time you come back to the office, you are in the right atmosphere, flowing in the right emotions, so that others around you would have interplay. Because there's a cause and effect. There's a cause and effect. And even in our relationship with our spouse, with our family members, different things can trigger us. But if we are conscious of triggers, then we're not going to let those triggers cause a reaction. So in this sense, we are deliberately creating an atmosphere through emotional intelligence. So building a very strong EQ to be aware, to be cognizant of emotions, leading and emotions impacting emotions that can build an organization. So if you have that frame in your heart and your mind, I'm sure the Holy Spirit will help us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You talked about, if people, maybe, staff members, maybe they're struggling with their emotions, what are some things that they can do to turn those emotions around? Because sometimes, disappointments or, the worries and stresses of life can really get in the way. What are some of the keys, do you think, that there are to help, if someone does need that time to really think and work and change that around, what can they do?
Yeah, so this book is in reference to those of us that are leading people. So take, for instance, I come to the office and you are one of my staff members and you're struggling with something. Now, if I come into the office with negative vibes, you're not going to come and talk to me because you look at me and say, oh, Dom's a bad mood. Liverpool lost the game and he's, it's bad weather. So you're going to avoid talking to me. You're not going to be helped. But even if Liverpool loses the game and I'm able to deal with that as I come into the office with a smile, coming up to you, hey, how are you doing? And I notice you're not doing well. One of two things. Hey, buddy, do you want to go back and then come back again? Or, hey, do you want to talk about it? So I'm now leading in a healthy emotion. I'm leading with high EQ that can facilitate you sharing so that it will not impact me. But as you share, you are taking off that negative emotion. And I've already built that atmosphere of unconditional acceptance. I build the atmosphere of freedom. I build the atmosphere of safety from my emotions. It helps you to share, it helps you to be open, and it helps you to understand that there is hope because of a healthy environment around me. Somebody's going to listen to me, and somebody's going to help me point a way for me to get out of the hole that I'm in. Yeah, so.
No, that's great. And I think for ministers thinking about the emotional intelligence, I think we often think about, we've got to preach the right message or set the vision, and all those things are obviously really important. But setting that environment, setting that the culture, setting the atmosphere within that staff team or leadership team, so important, I think. Yeah.
I mean, the true application of it, just look at it for us who are senior leaders. We're preaching every week. Some mornings we get up on the wrong side of the bed. Some morning we get up with a great sermon ready to preach, and something happens in the household, and we leave the door kicking the dog as we are going out the door. It's not a good setting. It's not a good setting to get to the congregation and preach from a wounded heart.
Yeah.
So primal leadership then tells you you need to overcome, because you need to be conscientious and cognizant that your emotions filters out, your emotions reverberates out from us. Yeah. So then, therefore, I realize I have a tremendous responsibility. I may have woken up on the wrong side of the bed. I may need to get back into the bed and come out on the other side of the bed, so that when I come onto the pulpit, I'm no longer ministering from a wounded heart. I'm ministering from healthy emotions. Yeah.
Great.
So.
Brilliant. Remind me, what's the name of that book?
Primal Leadership.
Primal Leadership.
Yeah, by Daniel Goleman.